Hey, thank you so much for joining another podcast with Global Real Estate School on YouTube. And I also pull the video off and have it on my podcast channel as well. And I'm so excited to have one of my students, Michelle Knight, who's with me. And Michelle passed her exam on the first attempt. But Michelle, so great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat today.
Yeah. What's really cool for everyone watching is not only is Michelle now a licensed real estate professional, but she wrote me this real kind note and through email, and come to find out, she has this really cool online marketing program as well. And I thought, oh gosh, I have to have Michelle on my podcast because she talks about branding and storytelling. And so I want to show her something. I got this out of for you, Michelle. I was
Oh, I
president.
love it.
Yeah, I was president in 2022 for Missouri Realtors. This was my theme. It's your story. And so, I love the fact that you're a storyteller and you especially using story and brand. And I want us to talk about that as for real estate professionals. So first, tell us a little bit about the school and now you're licensed and, it kind of bring us up to date about why you wanted to get your real estate license. And then we'll kind of go back and talk about your branding and your business.
Sounds good. Yeah. Fun kind of story. I'm a storyteller, so surprise, surprise, we're
Right.
going to dive into a bunch of stories. But my husband and I in 2019 sold our home and traveled in an RV for 2 years. And this was in 2019. This was, before the big boom and all of
Right.
that. We sold our home in less than 24 hours, but we did so much prep work. And I remember sitting down with my husband and being like, we need to pick out an ideal customer. We need to write a story. We need to be really strategic with how we're setting up the house and everything. And we had multiple offers and accepted an offer in 24 hours. And I really credit all of that to all the branding pieces of that puzzle. And so I've just always kind of remembered that. And then my husband and I settled down. Finally, we stopped traveling around in an RV. And we've really wanted to get into, investments and property and owning our own property. And I've always just had this little like nudge to test my skill set on branding and marketing in real estate. So I found your program online. I've been a course creator now since 2016. So I was really looking for someone who created an in-depth course. I wanted videos, I wanted action guides, I wanted assessments and quizzes. And so your program spoke to me and I invested in it and got really overwhelmed really fast because
Yeah.
I'm running my own business. I'm a homeschool mom and, I was trying to fit all
Right.
of this in. Took a break, went back to it, knocked it out in, just a few weeks and passed my test on the first time. And I told you in the email, I really credit that to the structure of the program, the being able to, practice the test questions over and over. I felt really prepared going in, especially as someone with test anxiety. That was a big thing for me. And I was over prepared, let me tell you. I think I got 3 math questions on that entire freaking thing. I was
Right.
like,
Yeah. And I tell people, people worry about the math, and sometimes you will see several math, but sometimes you don't. So, but
yeah, that's the
good.
area where I struggle. So I was definitely prepared. And now, of course, that will trickle into, when I'm actually working with clients. But yeah, the reading that very few people actually pass it on their first time and knowing that it really came back to the way you structured your program and the videos and things like that, I'm really thankful for that
Well,
and that we've
great.
connected on a shared love of storytelling.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and I appreciate your business. And I'm here after you go to school, so anything I can help you with your business. But you're off to the right start, and I love how you created the avatar. I'm in a mastermind every Monday morning, and we all know who our ideal client is, and
Mhm.
we know the pain points that they have and how to speak to them. And, it's so important for real estate professionals to understand that they're it's their own business. And believe it or not, I used to talk about branding. I taught GRI courses for Missouri Realtors for many years, and I taught the marketing session. And I always spent a lot of time trying to explain to the agents or the students in the class, you are the brand. Now, yes, your
Mhm.
brokerage has a brand and you need to market within the confines of that brand, but there's nothing that says you can't be you as a brand inside that real estate office. Because sometimes, Michelle, I mean, I've known of companies that have gone out of business or they sold or whatever, or the agent just was like, I need a different environment and they want to
Mhm.
pick up and go somewhere. Well, if you've never branded yourself, it makes it hard to kind of to retool and get up and running a little quickly. So let's just talk about story and brand as a new real estate agent. What would you encourage
Mhm.
them to do, or even an existing agent who says, "Gosh, I just want to, I want to blow everything up and start over." What do we? What's the first thing to think about when we're thinking about a brand for ourselves?
Yeah. So, I think it's really important for us to just remember that there are so many people doing what we're doing. Like, I know we don't like to think about that. We don't want to think about the competition, but you probably throw a penny and you could find a real estate agent. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
you have to really think about it from the perspective of your customer, whether they're selling or buying. And, why would they ultimately choose you? What is it about your brand that speaks to them, speaks to what they want? And the reality is, and what I think a lot of people struggle with, no matter if it's a real estate business or a service business or a product business, is they don't want to turn anyone away. But the reality is that really strong branding attracts and repels. And that's okay, because when we do that, we get the right people for us, the people where the relationship is going to be very cohesive, where the communication is just it's going to feel easy, it's going to feel simple. And with real estate and all the things we have to do, all the checklists that we have, I think that relationship is so important to have. And so when you're thinking about building your brand, and I'm a huge advocate, I'm in the process now, I just passed the test. So I'm in the process now of building my website. My background's in SEO, so making sure that the people who need to find me can find me on the internet. All of those different things. I'm going through and I'm saying, like, what parts of me do I want to portray in my brand? Do I want to communicate? What kind of lifestyle do I want them to know about me or my personality, how I communicate, the things I love, the things that we will find a shared interest in, as well as who do I want to work with? Like, if I really had to
Right.
think about
Yeah.
like the type of customer that I wanted, I most likely am going to be looking for someone who has a family or is looking to start a family, because I'm a mom and we bought
Right.
our first house months after we got married. So I can share that story with them. I can pull experiences from my story and have those conversations with them, which is going to build the know, like, and trust factor. And that is so crucial, not only in getting them to say, this is easy, I love working with you, but then to tell their friends and then to keep thinking of you and coming back to you if they're buying another property or they're selling or whatever that might look like.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm sure, I mean, we're both online marketers, and Michelle and I have not had an opportunity to talk about who we follow and different books we've read. But
Yeah.
it dawned on me one time, Michelle, I'm listening to Russell Brunson, and I'm sure you've heard of Russell, who has ClickFunnels, but Russell was talking about a time in his life when he was just burned out. And he was talking about just working with people that really were just a drain on him. And it was at that point when he said, I've got to figure out who is it that I want to work with. And I thought about that with my real estate career as well. And you just touched on it. I closed a house Friday, this last Friday, to the nicest, kindest people. And I had an absolute ball showing them
Mhm.
houses, working with them in the negotiations all the way up through closing. That's the type, that's the person I want to work with. And if I trace them back to other people that I've had great experiences with, that's who I want to work with. So, how do we build that ideal character? I mean, I know some people will write things down about them, but what would you suggest for us to begin to identify and build who is this character, this person I want to work with? You touched on a family wanting to have their first home, but is there any other little things we should think about on to help build that and clarify that?
Absolutely. So the one thing that I was touching on, and I think we were touching on together, are the demographics. And there's two layers to ideal customer work. There's the demographics and there's the psychographics. The psychographics are what actually form the connection, what actually sells. Because I mean, you're selling yourself to this person. Like, I'm going to help
Right.
you buy a house, right? The demographics are what I call self-identifiers. It allows that person to be like, oh, this is the person for me. I get it. We have these shared experiences. Maybe you even say on your website, like, I help first time home buyers buy their first house,
Yeah, and it's
if that.
interesting. These folks were seniors, and I
Mhm.
find myself gravitating toward that, helping people who are in that last chapter of, I shouldn't say last chapter of their life because where I'm at, but I love helping those people who are in, and I think there's a name for that, but it is the senior community. I didn't mean to jump in there, but that's an interesting way to look at the demographics part.
Well, you bring up a really great point because I also think some people, when they're getting started, whether, real estate business, whatever model they're following, they're kind of like, well, how do I know? And that's where the storytelling comes into play because you'll build a relationship a lot faster if you have shared experiences, right? And so I kind of touched
Right.
on that. Like, I can talk about the process of buying our first home and envisioning having a family there and what that looked like. And we ended up actually selling our home to a brand new family that had just gotten married 2 months before and we're like looking to start, so it's these shared experiences that can sometimes give you a idea at who your ideal customer is at that period of your life. And that's going to change because we change as we grow, and all businesses change and grow and evolve over time. And your ideal customer may change based on, your experience, but getting started, you can sometimes, and the thing that I like to teach is like, who are you? What's important to you? What are the things that you bring to the table? And then thinking, what kind of ideal customer does that point me in the right direction for? And then to kind of circle back as well, the psychographics are those deeper underlying pieces, and you just touched on this, like they're entering a new chapter in their life. What does that feel like? What are the things that are really important to them? Because at the end of the day, like, we want a house for a baby, you want a house for a fireplace. Why do they want a fireplace? What do they envision? Is it game night in front of the fireplace with their kiddos? Is it Christmas opening presents? Like, what is that? Those are the psychographs, like the deeper emotional pull as to why people are, saying they want the things that they ultimately want. And so when you can get really clear on that through your conversations with your ideal customer, and you can relay that in your messaging and the little, coffee chats that you have when you're
Right.
looking at houses, like, that's where the strong connection comes into play.
Yeah, and then you take that and can build on it with your social media post, with your short reels or stories, and that doesn't mean you can't serve or help someone else, but I think when you do find a lane that you like, and even online marketers will talk about this, even if it's kind of a real tight niche, there is a market there for that, and you can build on that. I remember one lady when I was teaching the GRI courses, and we did an exercise about, who do you want to help, or what's kind of a unique pitch that you want to give to people. And there was one lady who had just gone through a divorce, and she said it was such a traumatic experience for me to have to buy a home on my own and do all of this stuff that my husband had helped me with before, that she had this real passion to help other women or spouses who were going through that same kind of a situation.
Mhm.
So look at those various ways in your life. I've had people who love to work with military because they served in the military, or first time home buyers, and so lots of various ways. Well, now once you kind of narrow in that, you say, gosh, I think I want to maybe help first time home buyers. How are you going to start building the marketing around that brand? I mean, you talked about some of the things you're doing. And by the way, Michelle has a great podcast and lots of great material on her website, and we'll have that information here shortly. But you did an episode on SEO, and not
Yes.
to throw too much jargon out there. You know, we want the search engine optimization, which is for your website. That was a great episode, and it made me realize I need to go back and look at my website, and I tightened up a lot of things and used some tools for that. But what are some things we do with marketing now that we found a niche or something we want to try to attract that ideal customer? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I think a great marketing term and something I know that's in the real estate world is definitely the sphere of influence. That's where you're going to start. You're going to start with the
Hmm.
contacts that you have, and you're going to allow that to trickle out. But there is what I'm really excited to bring to the table when it comes to marketing is more of this client attraction model, where these are people who you do not know, right? And you don't really have a connection yet. And that's where things like SEO, or we're seeing, social media, which I could go on a whole conversation on social media and the best way to use it. But, I think SEO, when we think about people who are looking to buy houses, this is why Zillow works so well. Zillow is a search tool. It's a search engine. You can put in what you want and you can find what you want, essentially. And the same goes, especially I would say for my demographic and even younger, going onto Google and just being like real estate agents near me or so on and so forth. And like, you want your name to pop up. You want to be there. And a lot of people think that that's because of a long-standing credibility, but it's just keywords. It's just you having the proper things on your website to show up for that specific search. And so the beauty of SEO in my mind is like, I always say, even if you're not working, it's working for you. So
Right.
even if you aren't, out there posting on social media or whatever, or going to networking events because it's not working in your schedule, your SEO is still working for you. And it's a really, really powerful tool. I believe we should all have websites as real estate agents, even no matter what your business is. And so it's great for that. And then I think there's another angle of social media. A lot of people really think of social media as a way to get in front of new people. And it can be powerful for that, but it requires so much energy and effort. And I've always taken a different approach to social media where it's the relationship building stage. So I allow people to find me through my network, or I allow people to find me through, mailings or SEO or whatever strategy you're going to have at the top of the funnel. But then how do they stay in contact with you? How do they find out who you are and what makes you amazing and like why they should work with you? And that's
Right.
where you can use social media to your benefit for relationship building. And also when someone purchases from you, staying in contact, right? I know we learn about this, it's funny. I'm in the marketing module right now with my agency. I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, I love it. But also I know all of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is, it can seem overwhelming, but it is a needed part. If you're running your business like a business, and that's what I always tell agents, devote 30 minutes and listen to a podcast like Michelle's where you can get ideas. And I mean, I got some great ideas from your Descript, and I love
Oh yeah.
Descript and have been using it for a long time. But you showed me a couple of things that I wasn't effectively using with Descript, and I thought, gosh, now, it's kind of neat to do that and then make some corrections. So thank you for that. And I think Michelle and I both are on the same page that a lot of real estate agents and a lot of real estate brokerages, I'm trying to grow my real estate school in other states, and I stalk these bigger brokerages, and I see this join our team or career in real estate. And I click on it, and there's this page that's bland and boring with a bunch of words. And then down at the bottom, email us for, and sometimes, Michelle, I click put all the information in, click the button because I just want to see what they send me back. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'll get server error, can't find email, or like it won't even let me send a request, or I send something and I never hear anything back. And I'm
Mm,
thinking, first of all, you need to have a lead magnet or some type
mhm,
of a call to action to say, download my free report on what's going on in your neighborhood. Or, if you want to join our team, here's a success packet to get you started as a real estate agent. And people don't do that, but you are very effective with that. I try to be very effective with that. And to get the name and the email address, and then follow up with them and convert them into a lead. So we can do that as real estate professionals. I'm sure you have some ideas running through your head.
so many.
Yeah, my daughter and I, she helps me. We just sold this home Friday. Monday we sent out 96 postcards. We went into RP and I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that. It's a tool you'll have as a realtor, and we drew a map around the whole perimeter of the subdivision because I didn't want the post office sending them out to a mile and a half radius. I wanted to say these are the homes I want, and
Hmm.
then got the labels uploaded to the personal marketing company, created our just sold postcard, and now 96 homeowners tomorrow or the next day will start getting those postcards that we sold that home. And if you're thinking about selling, we'd love to give you a free price evaluation. Now, on
Hmm.
there, we can also create a QR code to send them to a landing page for their subdivision where we can say, hey, we provide a quarterly market report for your subdivision. Sign up for our report and we'll email it to you every month. And so, but
Hmm.
I'll let you talk about your ideas or thoughts that
No,
you.
no. I love that. I am thinking of really creative way, and before I kind of talk about the money and the follow up, right? There's so much money in the follow up, and that's where success is actually made. Whether it's a
Oh,
follow
yeah.
up when someone reaches out to you, actually responding in a timely manner, joining a lead magnet, and making sure you've got the email that goes out, and doing all of that. The follow up after a home is sold, asking, hey, you know anyone? Like, put me in touch with them, let me know, if you have any connections that I can reach out to. Those things, like, there's so much power in the follow-up, and sometimes we drop the ball because we're like, oh, job's done, and we
Yeah.
forget about that. Um but one of the things I also want to touch on, what you said, is the, like, looking outside of your industry. Like, I love that this is a podcast and you have so many amazing resources for real estate agents. But I think, when I was meeting with my broker, I was coming in with all of these fresh ideas because I had been exploring the whole service-based marketing, and I can bring them and I can translate them into real estate. And I've gotten all my ideas from not the service-based industry, but other industries. And so really, like, making sure that you're looking outside the bubble so that you can get these other ideas and creative angles. Cause, like, one of the things I'm exploring is a quiz as a lead magnet. So kind of like a home buyer's, like, quiz, what are the non-negotiables? What are the things? What kind of house could you ultimately be, like, a good fit for? Because it's fun, it's
Right.
interactive. And again, I haven't seen that. I'm sure it exists somewhere, but thinking outside the box a little bit with, like, how we can create those,
Very good.
leads.
Excellent. For those of you who didn't get the chance to know what happened just a few minutes ago, I spilled coffee as a phone call came in. And so I had to quickly ask Michelle to hold on while I cleaned everything up. But we were talking about thinking outside your industry. And you had we were talking just a moment ago, and maybe you mentioned about doing a quiz. And I actually started with a lead magnet for my school on. I first of all tried to identify what are most of the concerns people have. And I think this is something good is always ask questions. And when people ask you questions, sometime jot that down because I call it a pain point, but that's
Mhm.
something
Yep.
that someone else is going to probably have that same question. And so the more fact finding you can get, the better it is for you. So I started hearing a lot of the pain points. Uh, I'm afraid I won't pass the test. there's too many real estate agents. How do I make money if I get my license? So I went to a National Speakers Association meeting, and lady was talking about writing a tips book, and it was 52 tips, and she said I've made more money off my tips book than any of my other books. So I thought I'm going to write a tips book for passing the real estate exam and generating income in your first 90 days. So I wrote it, published it through Amazon Kindle, and then I give it away on my website for free, but people still buy it. And I actually did an audio book and they still buy the audio book. I just got a royalty check the other day from Audible. Not a lot, but it's, every bit helps. But so I wrote a tips book, how to pass the real estate exam and generate income in your first 90 days. Nothing fancy. It's just a PDF copy. And that lead magnet, Michelle, I convert about 20% of the people who download that book. So when they download it, I'm following up with them. But you talk
Yeah.
about a quiz, which I think is a great idea. I'm using a program now called Go High Level, and they
Hmm.
actually allow you to create quizzes in there. So I've now created a quiz called Is Real Estate a Good Career for You?
I love that.
Yeah. And so, well, thank you. And so I can now, I had Chat GPT help me with the quiz, and it's a graded quiz. And depending on your score, I can give you the customized version of what I want to say to you, and then put you in the right funnel based on whatever quiz that, whatever your score was. And it's all about, you know, you got to like to meet with people and you have to be self-motivating, and all the questions are designed to,
Hmm.
and that's not to say if you don't score well and you want to do real estate, you can, but you're going to have to probably understand some of the challenges you'll be up against. But anyway, those are the things Michelle and I, when we talk about lead magnets, you can use the internet and generate leads. And let me tell you what,
Hmm.
there are not many real estate agents taking advantage of the things we're talking about right here. I just know that for fact. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I this is what I have been doing in my, my brand Mary business, my other business, and I'm going to have two of them, but
right.
helping product-based business owners and service-based business owners understand this concept, because even if someone comes to your website or they grab your business card, like, they have to take that next step. And I always say that an email address is like the first form of currency. It's the first time they're investing in you and your brand in particular. And so when you can come up with something, and it doesn't have to be a quiz. Like, those are fun, those are creative. They're an interactive tool, but they're not for everyone. So know your ideal customer, right? And then also understanding that yes, it could be a checklist, it could be a PDF, it could be really whatever you want, a video, it doesn't matter. The whole point of it is to make sure that it would be a valuable value to your audience. So either addressing a pain point or leading them closer to the desire, right? And these are some of those psychographics and things that we talk about in ideal customer work. But I love that you said ChatGPT, because I was going to say it's the easiest thing to use now, and it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
ChatGPT, it could be Gemini, whatever. When you know these fundamental branding pieces, because this is exactly what I teach my clients in my course, when you understand what you bring to the table, your unique selling point, your stories, your ideal customer, who they are, you can then feed that information into a tool like ChatGPT and say, all right, help me come up with some lead magnet ideas. I want to do something creative, or I want to make a quiz. What are some ideas around this? And it's such a great tool. When I first started, I had to come up with all of this in my own brain. And
Right.
it would take longer to create everything. Now you can get those ideas. You can have a conversation, and then you can say, how should I set this up? What software could I use? Or I'm using this software and this is my CRM. Help me figure out how to do this. So you could get that set up in a matter of days, even if you're not tech savvy.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
that's just another example of why branding is so fundamental. So you can do all of these marketing strategies easily.
Exactly. And by the way, if you are interested in learning more about this, check out Michelle's website. She's got some great information. And I also did a webinar it's part of a 4-day lead challenge, and I basically showed people how to use free Google tools, a Google Sheets, and another Google free offer where you can set your landing page and everything up at no cost. Sometimes don't think, oh my gosh, if I go out and set this up, I'm going to have 900 people sign up. That would be great, and you could. And I'm a firm believer to, think positive and speak positive words. But a lot of it can be very manageable when you're first starting out. If you have 5 or 6 people on a spreadsheet and sending them uh, the market and update for their neighborhood, which you can do. So, well,
Mhm.
you've shared so much great information. I would love to go back and find out your story about what made you start Brand to Mary and how did you get involved in online marketing? Because I'm always interested in learning about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my background was in public relations. Actually, I was a theater major for the longest time. I went into public relations and I worked in communication in the nonprofit sector. So, I had a background in the communicating and understanding, the marketing. But when my son was born in 2015, I woke up one day and I told my husband, I don't want to go back to work. And that was bizarre because I wanted to work forever and move up the corporate ladder or the nonprofit ladder. And I just really felt after the birth of my son that I no longer wanted to be gone. I wanted to be home. I wanted to build something. We had always wanted to travel. So I combined my skill set, the things that I knew how to do at the time, which was like, I can help you build a website on Squarespace, and I can help you
Right.
figure out your brand. My husband had a graphic design background, so he was helping me with that aspect. And it just started snowballing. I mean, it took me about 8 months to finally sign a client. But the reason I signed that client was because I went back to the branding foundations because I was in a program and we branded ourselves, but I still felt uncertain about content to create and messaging and all of that. So I kind of created my own signature process back in 2016 when brand storytelling was not everywhere and emotional branding was not everywhere. And I put those pieces together, and almost within 24 hours, I posted a piece of content like I had always posted, and I signed a client. And it just continued. And so, I hit 6 figures in my business in the first year of running my own business solo and continued to scale that. And it's taken very different forms and iterations. I've done one-to-one consulting, I've done group programs, but I'm really in kind of my it's been 9 years. So I'm in my course era, package
Right.
it, and here you are. I know this works. Here you go, so that I can explore other avenues because I love all the
Right.
things. But yeah, it really was just this pull to have more freedom to be able to travel the world, which we've been so fortunate to do. I mean, my son has been to 15 countries. He's 9 years old. And so we've had a lot of freedom. And that's always been, the main driver for me. And funny, my one story I have to share with you. I don't know if I shared it, but I remember in one of your videos, you talked about how you consult in real estate with a friend. I think it's in France.
Yes.
um, and that story, number 1, it's story, so it stood out, right?
Right.
And I remember being like, "Oh, I want that." So it was
Yeah.
so motivating.
Yeah.
It was so motivating. But it does go to show you how powerful storytelling really is. It's what I've always taught. It's what I love. It sets my clients kind of free in their businesses. It gives them the freedom to be themselves and to do things that feel really aligned in the way that works for them. And it's just such a powerful piece. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit more.
And we can use it as real estate professionals because I talked about the closing Friday that we had. It was supposed to have closed on Monday, and the sellers were with another agent, and they had moved out on Monday. On Friday, after the Friday before Monday, I had received a call from my buyers who said, we don't know if we're going to be able to close Friday or not, and or close Monday or not, because our buyer hasn't closed. Well, lo and behold, they had a moving truck there, loaded up all their stuff. It's arriving on Tuesday in Farmington, and their buyer had no loan approval. And I'm telling my clients, your agent should have never allowed you to pack up and move out of your house without
Mhm.
the buyers having one. So this is like a nightmare in the process. I couldn't get anything out of the other agent, and this they were out of state. So I had to go through the buyer's agent who was wonderful and friendly and very helpful. But I used stories that I had experienced with other clients to keep my clients, at ease and not to worry and that things would work out. And,
Mhm.
you know, so you can use stories to reassure people that, hey, I've been in this situation before. Don't panic. We'll get it worked out. Uh, and I use stories about how I had helped other people, the options that were available. So stories can be so powerful in that. But yeah, my friend's story is he and I spoke the other day, and I go back and forth there, and hope to go back. Was hoping to go back in May, but we're trying to sell our home right now, and
Oh, man.
so I guess so I'm waiting for that to happen. But don't forget story. So it's Brand Mary, and I'll have the link down
Mhm.
below. Great website. She has a wonderful podcast.
Thank you.
You're doing something on Mondays now. Is it every Monday you do?
Well, okay, so that's a great story. It's we're calling it Mornings with Michelle, but I keep calling it Mondays with Michelle because in
Okay.
2016 and 2017 and into 2018, I went live every single Monday on Facebook. Every Monday, and I would have like a topic that we would talk about, and I would answer questions, and this was when live video was like booming
Yeah.
on Facebook. It has changed a bit, so I'm playing with doing kind of a mornings with Michelle on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but on Instagram. But I keep calling it Mondays with Michelle because I did
Yeah,
it for
that's
so
okay.
long.
Yeah. So that's an interesting take too, because I think Instagram's probably where it's at. I get most of my people from YouTube now. In my
Yes.
mastermind, I have a national online marketer who's part of our mastermind group, and his marketing guru that does his videography and a lot of his keeps track of his statistics. He said that his YouTube shorts are blowing up,
Blowing up. Yeah. Yeah.
that outperforming Instagram. And
Mm-hmm,
so he was really surprised. And I've noticed that YouTube and YouTube Shorts are. Now, you did something interesting on Instagram, and I was wondering, you went live, but you were bringing people in. And I haven't experimented much with Instagram Live, but I
hmm.
guess does that give you the option to bring a person in?
Yeah, yeah. So that's one of the reasons that I use. Well, there's a couple of reasons why I'm on Instagram, and again, like I shared, I'm definitely not somebody who is, constantly on social media. But I it's a where I am, right? It's like second nature to me. And so when I always tell people, like when you're trying to pick a platform to get started on and you're going to be consistent on, choose the one that you're familiar with because that's the only way you're going
Right.
to do it. But yes, Instagram makes it so you can have people on to do interviews or collaboration. So this was we were launching a program, so it was a former client of mine that was coming on to kind of talk about her experience. But that's the thing I love about marketing, and what I tell everyone is it all works. If you throw a stone far enough, you're gonna find somebody who says YouTube is it and they've been successful there. TikTok is it, Instagram is it, Facebook is
Right.
it,
Oh, yeah,
SEO.
exactly.
It doesn't matter. The trick is finding what works really cohesively with
Exactly.
you. But yes, YouTube is one of my favorites. I prefer YouTube. It's where I create most of my content. But yeah, I have been hearing YouTube Shorts. I think with all of the uncertainty with TikTok and things that have been happening, people are kind of like, all right, I don't want to mess with this. Like YouTube Shorts is doing a lot better. So I am interested to kind of see how that plays out as well. But
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
like thinking about marketing, don't get so hung up on where. It really is
Exactly.
about like picking one and being consistent and making sure that like you're speaking directly to your ideal customer.
Yeah, and you and I are on the same page, and I tell that same use the same statement when I'm talking to a group. Pick what you feel comfortable with. Some people I know just love, they feel more comfortable using their voice in an audio podcast, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people like to write and would rather, write blog posts, and that can be very successful as well. So, pick the platform and what's you and what you enjoy doing, because that's where you'll get a
Hmm.
lot more traction. Well, Michelle, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and experience. I'm going to have everything listed down below. Check out Michelle's website, her programs. She can help you with your branding, and just reach out to her. I know she'd be more than happy to help you out. So thank you.
Yeah, find me and do all those things. And I will probably be launching a real estate branding course soon.
Okay, good. Yeah, there we go. Sounds great. Thank
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.